Hi folks, today we're going to talk about demand. We're going to define demand. We're going to talk about this law of demand. We're going to take a look at a demand schedule. We're going to graph and we're going to analyze demand and explain a little bit about why demand does what it is it does and behaves the way it behaves. So, first thing, let's define it. Demand is defined as the ability and the willingness to purchase. So we have to be able and we've got to be willing to purchase a good or a service. When Ferrari goes to calculate the strength of the demand for their automobiles, somebody like me doesn't count. I'm a teacher. I don't make enough money to be able to afford a Ferrari car, which is going to set us back, whatever it does, $100,000 or more. I can't do that, so I don't count. I don't factor into the law of demand for Ferraris. Likewise, I don't watch TV, or at least not much. So when cable companies go to calculate the strength of their demand, I likewise wouldn't count. I'm not really willing to purchase that. I'd rather surf the internet or I'd rather watch Hulu. So the definition of demand, you have to be willing and able to purchase. Second thing, I want to point out that and I guess I'll use this chart to do it, that we can, the very first way that we go to analyze demand is typically we gather some data about price and quantity. And we typically put that data in a table and we call it a demand schedule. I've written one up here on the board. This is a very typical demand schedule with two columns here, one for price and the other one for quantity, and we'll see the prices are issued in a price of $5, $4, $3, $2, and $1, and we notice that the quantity at $5 we've got 10, at $4 17. We want 17 of these, whatever it is. At $3 we've got sort of 26, at $2 38, at $1 53. So quantity demanded over here in this column is a strong function of price. That's one of the key characteristics of demand. Second thing is, hopefully you've noticed by just looking at this table, price and quantity, when we're talking about demand, have an inverse relationship. So that means, in this case, price is starting high and going down, whereas quantity demanded starts relatively low and moves up. An inverse proportion, inverse relationship to one another. We can graph this. We'll take these points. I've actually done this ahead of time just to save time on the video here. But my first point at 5:10 is 5 and 10. It's here. Second point is 4:17. 4:17. The next point was at what, 3:26. So there's 3, price of 3. We demand 26 units. The fourth point is at 2:38, so at a price of 2 we want 38 units. Widgets, by the way, properly headed. Make sure, folks, your tables and your graphs are properly headed. Always make sure that you define the market that you're describing. And finally, at a price of 1 we're going to demand 53 units of this. And so what this does is when we connect the dots and we produce a line of best fit, we get this downward sloping demand curve, which I'm going to label D for demand. So why does the demand curve do this? Why does it slope downward to the right? It does so for 3 reasons. It does so because of the substitution effect. Let's take any two goods. We'll take organic lettuce and we'll take regular lettuce, or we'll take maybe 2 different boxes of cereal. If the price of one of those boxes of cereal goes up and is high, people will probably say, you know what, I've had enough tricks, I'm going to substitute into, let's say, Fruit Loops instead. So it produces a situation where if consumers can substitute out of consuming a good, like Trix, for example, when the price of that goes high, they'll purchase the other one. So it produces this high price, low quantity demanded combination. Price comes down on Trix, people stop consuming so much Fruit Loops, they're going to buy Trix instead. So that's going to then, for Trix, if this were Trix, this is going to produce then this situation where we've got this low price, high quantity demanded combination. Substitution effect, people can substitute in or out if they can do it. And not all goods have a decent substitute. More on that later. Second reason that the demand curve slopes downward to the right is called the income effect. Although our incomes can change from maybe month to month, certainly from year to year, at any given point in time, our incomes can only buy a static amount of goods and services. So when the price goes up on those goods and services, we can't buy as much. When the price comes down, we can buy more of it. And again, if you think about it, that kind of produces this high price, low quantity demanded combination and this low price, high quantity demanded combination. The income effect. Last reason, it's a law. Diminishing marginal utility. Diminishing, decreasing. Marginal, one more unit of something. Economists are obsessed with the margin, looking at what happens to, in this case, demand when we consume or we want to purchase one more unit, in this case of widgets. Utility. Utility is the satisfaction that I derive from consuming. Put that together. Decreasing marginal utility, diminishing marginal utility, decreasing satisfaction that I get from consuming one more of something. If diminishing marginal utility happens, what that tells me is that I'm purchasing one more of something, one more of something, one more of something, and as I'm doing that, I am deriving less and less and less satisfaction from the additional consumption that I'm doing. So, if I purchase the first good or the first unit, in this case 10, I'm going to derive a certain amount of high satisfaction from that. But I know that as I consume more and more units of this, I'm going to derive less and less satisfaction from it. So I'm not willing to pay as much for the additional units. Think about it. That will then, if true, produces a situation where we've got high price, low quantity demanded, and then low price, high quantity demanded situation. So what we've done, hopefully, we've defined demand. We've taken a look at a demand schedule. Based on the information from the demand schedule, we've graphed the situation, and we've started to make some inroads in analyzing why it is that demand behaves the way it does. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks.